Thank you. Good afternoon. We're happy to present this solidarity statement, by the Catholic Lawyers Guild in Zimbabwe. The Catholic Lawyers Guild is an association of Catholic lawyers. We number about 200 lawyers in Zimbabwe and some outside of the country. We are a non-partisan association. We believe in the social teachings of the Catholic Church and the values of human dignity. We issued this statement out of concern, on the attack of the Zimbabwe Catholic Bishops' Conference. We, the Catholic Lawyers Guild, are deeply concerned by the government of Zimbabwe's unwarranted vitriolic attack on the pastoral letter issued by the Zimbabwe Catholic Bishops' Conference on 14 August 2020, entitled, "The March is Not Ended." The attack was issued through the Minister of Information, Publicity and Broadcasting Services, on 15 August 2020. Minister Monica Mutsangwa read out the statement on national television and radio on the evening of 15 August 2020. We further note with concern the attempt by Minister Mutsangwa to divide the bishops by targeting the Archbishop of Harare and President of the Zimbabwe Catholic Bishops' Conference. Archbishop Robert Christopher Ndlovu is singled out in government's disgraceful statement. The pastoral letter denounced the current human rights situation in Zimbabwe and noted that the call for demonstrations is the expression of growing frustration and aggravation caused by the conditions that the majority of Zimbabweans find themselves in. It also noted that the current crisis comes on the backdrop of unresolved past hurts like Gukurahundi, which continue to spawn even more angry new generations. The bishops acknowledged the seriousness of human rights breaches by the government and its agents and noted that various voices, including the European Union, the African Union, and the United Nations, have voiced concern over the deteriorating human rights situation in the country. The bishops applauded the attempts by President Cyril Ramaphosa of South Africa to intervene by sending a special envoy. They, however, noted the failure to make broad consultations with the church and civic society by the special envoy and questioned whether this was not a missed opportunity. The bishops acknowledged the need to rally behind the hashtag Zimbabwean Lives Matter, noting that the crackdown on dissent is unprecedented and that our government automatically labels anyone thinking differently as an enemy of the country. They also noted that the corruption in the country has reached alarming levels, with the catch and release approach making the ordinary man in the street question the sincerity of the government to deal effectively with corruption. The bishops questioned whether there was no connection between what some journalists are unearthing about the government's officials' endemic corruption and their arrest. Without responding to the issues raised, the government issued a vicious attack on the bishops, regrettably calling the church's leadership misguided and evil-minded. We note with serious concern the vicious tribal attack against Archbishop Ndlovu, which must be condemned by all right-thinking people. As the Catholic Lawyers Guild, we are shocked by government's blatant denials of the crisis in Zimbabwe. Preliminary observations by the UN Special Rapporteur on the Right to Food on her official visit to Zimbabwe in November 2019 characterized the dire food situation as a man-made starvation, warning that the food security situation is expected to worsen with an estimated 8 million people affected. We are equally concerned that corruption, including the misappropriation of funds intended to combat COVID-19, has become entrenched, with public resources diverted for personal gain. This, the government cannot deny, in circumstances in which the president belatedly had to dismiss former Health and Child Care Minister Obadiah Moyo over allegations of corruption. In June 2020, we found ourselves as Catholic Lawyers Guild having to issue a statement of concern after some of our colleagues were arrested and or questioned about their work as lawyers and charged with a litany of what we deem to be frivolous charges. The arrest of other professionals, such as journalists, doing their legitimate work, with some having been labeled purveyors of fake news, and others having been suspended for airing content deemed unpalatable to the government, remains cause for concern. The health delivery system has virtually collapsed, with healthcare workers always on strike for legitimate and lawful reasons, which the government has failed to address. Whilst we note that the bishops have made reference to the COVID-19 situation, we agree with the sentiments expressed by the UN Commissioner for Human Rights on 24 July 2020 that the Zimbabwean authorities may be using the COVID-19 pandemic as a pretext to clamp down on freedom of expression and freedom of peaceful assembly and association. The UN Special Rapporteur on the right to freedom of peaceful assembly and of association has concluded that there is a serious deterioration of the political, economic, and social environment since August 2018. Cases of abductions and torture are on the rise, and the government has previously blamed what it called a third force. On 5 August 2020, the United Nations issued a statement in which it stated that the Secretary General had been following with concern recent developments in Zimbabwe. The Secretary General urged the government of Zimbabwe to ensure the protection of all fundamental human rights, notably of freedom of opinion and expression, and the right to freedom of peaceful assembly and association, in accordance with the Zimbabwe's human rights obligations. He also called on all political actors and civil society to resolve issues peacefully through inclusive dialogue. In the circumstances, as the Catholic Lawyers Guild, we demand the following from the government. 1. An apology and retraction of the vitriolic response given to the pastoral letter. Second, an assurance that no harm will befall the bishops on account of the pastoral letter, and any future communication that as true shepherds they will release. Third, an acknowledgement that Zimbabwe is in a crisis and acceptance of help to end the crisis. 4, we demand respect. We demand respect for human rights. And 5th, we demand respect for the rule of law. And finally, that the government takes heed of the call by the bishops for an urgent plea to peace and nation building through inclusive engagement, dialogue, and collective responsibility for transformation. Our thoughts and prayers are with our bishops during this time that they are being persecuted for speaking the truth. We stand with them and offer our support as they continue with the prophetic role they continue to render by speaking out against ills that afflict our troubled nation. As our Lord enjoins us in Ephesians 5 verse 11, take no part in the unfruitful works of darkness, but instead expose them. I thank you.